Yes, my name is Eiríkur. I'm the project manager of my district, which is a digital tool for citizen partnership and is a PB project here in Reykjavik. This is our biggest participatory democracy project and our only PB project. It launched in 2012, and since then, 787 ideas have become a reality. I'm going to tell you about the background, then how the project works, results and progress over the years, our lessons learned, and what the future holds for this project. So in 2008, the Citizen Foundation is founded. Their main goal was to help citizens get their voices heard, and they launched a citizen engagement platform, which is the predecessor of Better Reykjavik. In 2010, a new party arose called the Best Party. This party was led by a well-known comedian, and the Best Party used this platform to involve the citizens in the election campaign, and they later go on to win the elections. One of their election promises was to develop a platform for citizen participation, and Better Reykjavik was created, and Project My District was born. This PP was therefore an idea coming from the politicians which had newly been elected, and their main goal was to involve citizens and give them an opportunity to affect their districts and have a hand in shaping their environment. Here are their objectives: to empower the citizens and engage with them and increase participation in democratic processes and encourage democratic deliberation. As well, this project is a way to improve communications with citizens and bridge the gap between the public and the city's administrative system. They use the internet as a tool for crowdsourcing and establish an online forum for citizens to submit ideas, discuss them, and prioritize. So how does it work? It's a collaborative project between the city for prioritizing and distributing funds for new, smaller scale projects in the 10 districts of Reykjavik. Here you can see how the districts are different, and we basically have a collection of ideas for every district. So you can then vote in your own district. The budget is 5.4 million between the 10 districts. To ensure minimum amount for the smallest districts, 1/4 of the funding is divided equally among all districts, while the rest is divided in direct proportion to the number of residents in each district. We recently changed the project so it takes place biannually instead of annually, and I will discuss why we did that later on and what that changes for us working on the project. This is the timeline and the process. The call for ideas for my district takes place on a consultation forum called Better Reykjavik. Citizens can participate by registering and submitting their ideas. They can also argue for or against ideas that have been submitted by other users. The collection of ideas is open for a couple of weeks, and during that time, the city promotes the project as a whole, and we also promote the project when the elections themselves take place, but we do not advertise individual ideas. Authors or organizations in the districts are, however, free to promote their own ideas or ideas they favor. After the submission of ideas, the submitted ideas are then assessed by a team of specialists within the administration of the city according to the rules of the project. The ideas have to meet a pre-described criteria to be eligible. We engage in conversation with the idea makers and developer change the ideas in many cases to make sure that they meet the criteria and not so that we don't reject them on a technicality, for example. And then the residents' council of each district will line up a certain number of ideas for an electronic vote. Following this review and consultation process, the ideas will be put up for an electronic vote for the people of the district, where a certain number of ideas have been put on the ballot. And following the election, the design and tender process takes place along with consultation with the local community before the elected ideas are implemented. Efforts are made to consult with authors of ideas and residents' councils on project implementation, especially in those cases where the ideas need to be amended. Those ideas which are not selected or do not get voted will be directed into alternate channels at the city of Reykjavik, for example, as suggestions for departments or input for planning discussion. This is the pre-described criteria I discussed earlier. So the ideas should be on city territory, fall within the remit of the city, aim to benefit the entire district. They cannot cost more than the funds available for the district, nor require extensive annual operating costs. And they should not take more time to implement than the time schedule permits. Ideas need to be innovative. Maintenance ideas are not approved. This is a change which happened recently. Usually we also accepted maintenance ideas and security ideas, but this is something we changed, and this is the first time we don't accept those ideas. The ideas also need to be consistent with the city's planning and policy and aim to bring the district closer to the citizens' vision of the future. This is progress over the years. We have seen a rise in voting participation, and in 2018 we lowered the voting age but still managed to grow and increase the voting participation. We are having more conversations with idea creators, local community and citizens in the district, and we have a stronger offline presence than ever before. This of course does not apply now because we have had to move everything online because of the pandemic. And so instead of being able to visit schools and leisure centers and social service centers, I am having to do everything by either video call or doing video presentations. But we are not only looking at voting participation as an indicator that we are growing. We can also see that the number of ideas and people participating in submission of ideas is also rising. This year we saw a 70% increase in people submitting and visiting the Better Reykjavik submission of ideas website, which we're really happy with. Yeah, since 2010, a total of 787 ideas have been implemented all over Reykjavik. Here we see a big swing, a football field, a viewing platform, and a playground. For example, these are just a few examples, but there are many, many more which we have implemented. Our experience and lessons learned. This is a very labor-intensive project, and it needs full-time staff. It's never fully developed. We are always learning and developing the project. This is a learning experience for everyone involved across the departments which this project works. Voting participation. We have a secure authentication electronic ID for the voting itself, but during the submission of ideas, we allow more people to submit, and there's no authentication necessary there because a good idea is a good idea no matter who submits it. We've also learned that it's hard to reach groups beyond the usual suspects which are already involved and have interest in the district shaping and their local environment. So our advertising campaign aims to get more in touch with younger people, for example, and people who don't care as much as the usual suspects about their local environment. We've also learned that the evaluation process needs to be more open and in better collaborations with the citizens. The dialogue and cooperation with citizens and creators of idea creates the biggest value for this project. This is our opportunity to listen to the people and get a feel for the local community. The future is essentially now for this project because we recently changed this project, so it takes place every 2 years instead of annually. When it took place annually, there was a lot of tension and the project was essentially going too fast because we essentially hadn't finished implementing ideas which had been voted on before we were collecting ideas again. So people were questioning what happened to the ideas they voted on last time. We couldn't put all our efforts into doing one thing at a time, so it was overlapping in some sense. This also gives us more time for consultation with idea creators and the local community, aiming to increase satisfaction with the implementation itself. We have also removed maintenance ideas from the project, and they go through another channel within the city's administrative system. This is something we had been criticized for in past, and we knew about, because you were essentially voting on a new playground or fix old streets, which is like, we understood and we listened to this, and we found it was better that these projects essentially go through another channel within the system, and it's something that people shouldn't need to vote on. It should essentially just happen or be implemented. So yes, thank you. This is my presentation.
Thank you so much, Eiríkur, and thank you for joining us. Here today, as this is as I mentioned to you, this is Code Europe. We're 10 partners from across Europe, which have been funded by EAA funds and Norwegian funds, which is basically funding sort of democratic innovation and with focus on Eastern Europe. But I'm gonna share my screen again. I'm gonna show you a little live demo. Let's see how that goes. Let me see. Skip out of that. Here we go. So this is my district idea generation website. Let me just quickly turn on auto translate, so we'll be able to see this in English. And this year we had over 1,300 ideas were submitted. Over 10,000 people logged in and took direct part in the co-creation. We had 70,000 people visited the website, which is pretty good. There's about a little bit over 100,000 people on the voting registry in Reykjavik. And so people come to the website and they have different groups. They basically have one group for each neighborhood in the city, one for each of the 10 neighborhoods. So you click on your group, and there you can see the ideas. It's closed for new ideas. I would be able to. It would be an orange button here. I could click on, and you can also see now that all the ideas are now in progress. So this is sort of this will change as the project moves forward. And so below that you have the actual ideas. Like sea swimming facilities at Lørenskóg. This sounds really interesting. And then people add their debate points for and against. And as in many cases with the points against, then people are saying like, oh, I'm not really against this, but had you looked at this? Or somebody here saying that this is a great idea, but it shouldn't really be used. District money shouldn't be used to do this. It should be like a private thing. So all sorts of different opinions that come through this, and if you look further, people are looking at sort of refurbishing. A part of one of the big Icelandic swimming pools to refurb that into something interesting. And basically we have ideas from a very wide sort of range of views, and some of them are pretty cool. A surf pool, I like that. Let's see, I'll start surfing finally. But so here's another view to look at this. So here are the submitted ideas on a map. And what I really like about those maps is that, all those ideas basically draw out the municipality boundaries of Reykjavik. That, there are other municipalities that are sort of in the nooks and crannies that are around the city. And there are ideas everywhere. And you can you know, then you can look at, you know, I mean, what they are and so on. I didn't turn on the auto translation here. Let me see, like that. And so this is really important to have. And one of the benefits of mass participation in an event like this is that you have sort of many, you know, that you have really a wide range of ideas that come through the process. So here's actually how most of the people view the platform on their mobiles. And so this is like the mobile view of the platform. And you know, you know, in the idea generation that completed 3 weeks ago, you know, around 70% of people use mobile phones to participate. That's been sort of from in, you know, 2014, in, you know, in the first month it was 3% were using mobiles, but in the middle of the year 2014, 12% were using mobile. It's been growing constantly since. And the platform is very easy to use. There you know, choose your neighborhood. You have the then you have the different ideas. This is quite a controversial idea. Somebody put in this idea of building a statue of Kanye West in the west side of Reykjavik, and people had here's an example of the people, how were people debating that back and forth. There's a huge debate about that. We'll see where that goes. And then on mobiles, you know, you can look at the debate, but then it has this swiping functionality, so you can actually sort of swipe through the ideas, you know, in a very sort of a convenient way. And the order of the ideas as they swipe is actually, you know, done by an AI recommendation algorithm. So if you've used the website before, when you swipe, it's more likely that you will have ideas that you're interested in. So you have thousands of ideas to look at, and you're interested in cycling, you're more likely to get ideas about cycling first. But you will see all the ideas as you sort of, you know, swipe through it, you know, if you like. And so this is sort of the idea generation. And then if we move just quickly over to the voting interface. This is the open active voting platform. And here, this is from the 2019 vote, you can see the different neighborhoods, and I click on my neighborhood that I want to vote in. And then at the top of the screen, we have 55 millions are on offer in this neighborhood. And below, I can see the different ideas that all of those ideas came from citizens, and they've in the voting we have 25 ideas in each neighborhood to choose from. So they've you know, gone through the idea generation. They've been filtered for if they're relevant, and then they've been you know, chosen in collaboration with Icelandic neighborhood councils. And so let's say if I say here a drinking fountain, that sounds interesting. I can get like a little description about it. You know, I can see where the location of it is going to be. I can even see like you know, basic sort of points for and against. Okay, there's no points for and against for this one. And and then I can add on this plus, and now it's gone up here in my budget, and I have 47 million left. So let me just quickly scroll down here, and oh, Hagatorg. Oh, that's a big development, 30 million. So let's get that. So then that takes up a huge part of my budget, but that's fine. This is a demo. So I like the fitness agreement here. I have 8 millions left now. So we'll also choose this one. This is a good project. And now I can see here that projects that are more expensive than my 5 million, they have been grayed out. I can't choose them anymore, but we'll fill in with some trash bins and a little library. So now we have completed the budget. We have a choice in those ideas, and then I can remove them if I want, or I can add them again. And then finally, people have they have one extra vote. They can give their favorite idea like a star, and then that will count as 2 votes for that idea. So the idea here is that people have a way of prioritizing what they like, but they also have a bit of sort of civic education in terms of they are now more aware of how much things cost. Like, for example, in the first 2 years, there were actually quite a bit of sort of, questions. Oh, do trash bins cost so much? Really? Does one bench cost so much? It's just like one bench, why does it cost so much? But then, often people forget to think about that most of the cost by installing a new bench is to do the groundwork underneath it to make sure that it doesn't like sink into the ground. But it also gives people the idea that there's so many things that can be done, but there's only so much budget left. So it gives people a bit of a sense that you can't have everything because you've just filled out the budget and the budget is gone. And then you click on vote, you log on with your EID, and you have voted. And I think in 2019, I think the average voting time was around 5 minutes. So people come to the website, they go to the neighborhood, they scroll through it, and then they vote. So it's a very high impact, low time based activity for people. And finally, in this little demo, this is the mobile view, and the same here. We have a majority of people are using those platforms on mobile. It's like a mobile web app, and you can works sort of the same way. Quite simple. You choose your ideas. You can look at different things, and then you vote. And yeah, that was that for this presentation. And I now offer you, for if you have any questions for Eiríkur or I. Elisa.
Yeah, here I am again. Yeah, it was really interesting. I always have a lot of questions because I really like this stuff. So I was interested about the civic education part, right? Because you can see how much a bench costs, and it's like 1 million or whatever. And is there like an explanation for people on where this million goes to? Like, as you were explaining, you need to drill the hole, you need like human resources. Is there a way for people to know, like, why is it 1 million?
That's a good question. Not explicitly, but I think it comes sort of implicitly out of the process in terms of that because I remember, like, as I say, in the first 2 years, we got questions on Facebook saying, hey, how does it come? It costs like 2 million to do a bench. And then there was an opportunity on Facebook, for example, that's one of our key channels to reach people. There's an opportunity there to clarify it, to say, well, the groundwork costs the most. So it is sort of implicit, yeah.
I think it would be interesting to add just like a few bullet points, like as a more detailed explanation, so that even students can, start already this process of understanding why this is so costly. And then I had
sorry, Elisa. Actually, Eiríkur, if I ask you sort of, divert this to you, I mean, like when the projects go forward, there's like a budget that people can access, right?
Yeah, we have like after during the election phase, I think you can open up, or like, I know after the project gets implemented, you can see a design, like a budget, like it's like just a PDF file with the design, the budget, not detailed. It's not detailed, but it shows like this. There was like groundwork, there was a new bench, there was implementation. This is the costs, and it amounted up to 1 million.
Okay.
So you can, if you're interested, you can always look at the project which have been implemented. You can see roughly, and you can always contact, and if you contact us and ask for detailed budget costs, then I think you can access that as well.
Okay, that's great. And I just had another quick question around, well, I've seen that, I imagine that people really like this participatory budgeting exercise because you have shown the graph in which the votes have increased only in years. So that means that I guess that the people in Iceland are happy about this process. But I was wondering if you had, for example, researchers, or if you have ever gathered like citizens' feedback about how much, for example, after having this type of democratic process of participatory budgeting, for example, they trust their local governments more, or this has enhanced accountability and legitimacy of their local governments, like sort of questions, like to have feedback in these past years of citizens, you know, perception of democratic processes, and, you know, if citizens have actually thought this is what we need more of in the future, and not just elections of representatives, but really more participation of people in the decision-making processes.
A few years back, there was a survey on how many people knew about the project and how many people looked at it as effective and how many people thought of it as, you know, money wasting or you know, whatever. And overall, everyone who knew about the project was happy with it.
Okay.
In like maybe like 70-80% were like fairly or very happy about the project and wanted essentially increased money and increased percentage of the total budget for Reykjavik. They were happy with it, but I think they were calling for more to some extent, because this project is limited by the budget and the prescribed criteria, because essentially it's always good to look at the future. Maybe it could become later a much bigger project on, vote on bigger projects. But for now, this is how it stands, and satisfaction also increases mostly when we engage with the local community, because people are of course people want to be included the whole project, like during the implementation phase as well. Because if you send an idea and then a year and a half later you just see something implemented and you had no other, you weren't included in any of the projects. But what we're seeing now is that people, not all people, but most people want consultation with the local community and increased conversations between the community and the city's administrative system.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's great. That's great to know. And I think that it's also a great indication that, as you said, Robert, 70% of people are using also their mobile apps in order to, and this is really something that we should consider also in our project, I think, of the Code Europe. Okay, thanks a lot anyway.
Yeah, and yes, just to add to that, I mean, yes, as Eiríkur said, there's a few years ago, and then even before that, there's been sort of organized like surveying of people's attitude to the project, and overwhelmingly people want more. They want more bigger things to decide, and so I think that's good. And in general, the metric of people continuing to participate and increasing participation is really a good metric anyway, in terms of that, you don't lie with your feet, I mean, people come there to participate. That's, they can answer something in a survey, but if they would be really happy with it in the survey, but it would be going down, that would be so Simon, and then Yvette, and then Petco. Questions, Simon?
Yes, I must say that participatory budgeting is one of my favorite topics. So I'm also advocating it a lot in Slovenia through media and conferences. We saw some progress right now, also by some cases using your application localized in Slovenian language. But the problem with Slovenian municipalities is that the proportion of the municipality budget, which is actually directed to the participatory budgeting, is much lower than you have here in Reykjavik. This is also one thing that I think is really not fooling the development of this aspect in Slovenia. But and another aspect that also came out in our country is vital is the trust into the process. So here I would like to ask if you can explain a little bit more in detail how the actual decision-making process is working in participatory budgeting, in terms that you really secure to the citizen that the best and those really popular proposals are being selected, and that the prioritization process is not being kidnapped by specific groups of the citizens who have their own agenda. Then they connect with other groups and they give votes to each other. This is also one of the things that you have to have a good feedback loop to the citizens, and also a lot of not only what is happening on the online platform, but also what is happening to the face-to-face coalitions and so on. So I'm interested in these backstage stories which are going behind the participatory budgeting.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you handle this?
Yeah, so okay, when the project was less popular, and the voting was around, I think it was around 6-7% maybe in 2013-14, if I remember correctly. Then you could see how not a small group, but maybe a medium-sized group could influence the vote effectively if they wanted some idea. But now, as soon as we see the voting participation grow, it becomes harder and harder for these small and medium-sized groups to influence, because it's essentially just as you increase participation, there's more democracy, and this small group can't affect anymore. And there's also one part. They send in 1,000 ideas, the citizens. Then we have a maximum of 25 ideas in each neighborhood or each district, which are on the ballot. So there's this filter of both the review, which is what is eligible, and then we've usually had what's it called, residents council just did it on their own in a closed meeting, just like the residents council are I think it's like politicians and from grassroots organizations like the parental organization of the resident of the district, the one from just essentially from different grassroots organizations within the city, which have some democratic connection to the district. So they usually, I think, did it in a closed meeting or held an open meeting where everyone could visit and you could see and you could choose maybe 10 ideas you would like to see on the ballot. But this year we changed that to have it even more open, where we have an open meeting with both the residents council and just everyone can come and have their own vote. So you're essentially voting twice, but we call this we use a word different than voting. We use, choose your favorite ideas, so what do you want to vote on? Because we don't want to make people vote twice, but essentially we are asking them to vote twice. So that's something we've also done. We're thinking everywhere, how do we make it more open and how do we include more people in the decision making? Instead of a group of 10 resident council members choosing the ballot, we let everyone who wants to be included in choosing the ballot have an opportunity to do that. And then, of course, if you're a big organization, so I mean a big grassroots organization, citizen organization, whatever, if you submit your own idea and you have a platform to advertise it during the election, for example, in the I think there's lots of ideas regarding because we have, of course, the districts have other districts or like neighborhoods within the district, and some of them are more populous and have more residents, and those ideas are of course more likely to be voted because there are more people who have what would you say? There are more people who would benefit from that. So of course there's also always the chance that the smaller parts of the district get not left behind, but maybe are not as likely to get their proposals voted. But yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Great. Iveta?
Hey, my question would be on the slide that I saw where people structured their arguments in favor or against some project in a very neat manner. Basically, you could see arguments for and you could see arguments against. And my question is, do the people themselves, when they write some comment already, classify it as being an argument for or arguments against, or is it some thing that the team behind this is doing?
No, yeah, people are asked explicitly, is this a point for or is this a point against, something. So people, do that, themselves, and that's very deliberative in terms of that, because we want people to go into this evaluation mode when they see the idea. We don't want to ask people, oh, what is the first thing that pops into your mind when you see this idea? We want people to sort of take a step back, say, oh, also, okay, I need to write a point for it, or I'm against it. Am I against it? Am I for it? And then people write that point. So it's very explicit in that way. I mean, we actually have AI algorithms that, you know, can recognize the difference, you know, between a point for and a point against. But it's very deliberate that we ask people, and this sort of helps to put people a bit into this, you know, evaluation mode rather than sort of the classic standard Facebook argue mode.
But how in this case, how can you keep the mess out of it? Because algorithms will probably not catch all the arguments that are either very similar to each other, or those which shouldn't really be classified as being against or for, or just leave it be because there's not that much of an activity for it to cause a problem.
Yeah, well, you know, I think it's like, you know, yeah, sometimes that happens. You know, sometimes you read down the thread, and you know, and like, for example, I showed you for the, you know, crowdsourcing of the education policy of the city. You know, showed you this example of where people were sort of debating bringing back the New Testament into the schools, and they had this huge debate. And you know, actually, some people said they're like, you know, they supported the, you know, as I say, the only reason, you know, I could support this, you know, is because of something, and they were actually against it, you know, but they still put a point for it. That was just, you know, an anti-point, you know, like it was reversed the thinking, but it was just there. We left it there. It was no problem. It didn't take away from it. So it's flexible in that sense. And when people are reading through it, I mean, they will see it as well in terms of what is, even if it's not 100%. And as I showed you the example before, it's often like, you know, people say, well, I'm not that against it, but, you know, like this guy is like, oh, I love this project, but I'm against putting the district money into it. This would be something that should be private money. So, and then in the platform, you actually can change the framing. You can put, like, you have points for, points against. You, like, for example, the project I'll show you later, the Scottish Parliament, you know, they put in like, you know, good things about this, concerns. So you can actually frame the pros and cons a bit softer, you know, if you like, you know, is that, so yeah. Okay, yeah. Petco?
Hello, everybody. Thanks for this very interesting presentation. I was just wondering if you could share a few thoughts about engagement with the using the media. You were showing some really impressive figures of number of people, of percentage of people who participated in the whole exercise. How did you achieve that media? It's not just for you, but also for Eiríkur, if I pronounce your name correctly. How did you get people? How did you raise people awareness? I guess in a smaller city or in a smaller place like Iceland, that might be a bit easier than what we are facing now. But in your experience, first of all, what kind of media instruments did you use? And second, I think it's also important during the crowdsourcing. Did you sort of try to moderate any debate, or did you just try to increase the numbers of people who were participating? So did you take part in the content discussion itself, or how did it go?
Okay. First of all, the media, we essentially ran an advertising campaign with a advertising agency. We aimed to, like this year, we were aiming to convey two messages. It's essentially think bigger, and also this project makes, like, this project is changing the neighborhoods. Like you can see, we essentially we were using a project which we have implemented earlier to be like, see, this is what we made last year. What do you want to see us make this year? Think big, or like think bigger, or whatever. We ran an advertising campaign on on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Google Display. We went to I think we put an ad in all the district or like neighborhood papers, in biggest papers in Iceland as well. And on I think I went to 6 or 7 radio or television interviews, which we've tried it before, but people, I don't know, maybe the media was more so skeptical to me, to getting me in interviews this year, because we needed more good news, and I think this would classify as good news. So I think that helped, and fortunately I had to wake up very early often, but I took one for the team. And then we had during this advertising campaign, we also used what I would call a neighborhood influencer. So we used people who were from that neighborhood, had grown up there, had a strong connection to the neighborhood, but are either famous or semi-famous or what. And this advertising campaign got really popular because essentially we had 10 different, instead of one actor going all around, we had 10 different actors, each for one neighborhood. We showed a connection, to the neighborhood, and we showed what project we had implemented in that neighborhood. And also we had the collection of ideas were open for a longer time than usually. I think we were open for up to 10 weeks. It might have been a bit too long. And also we also used the residence councils. So they have connections to the Facebook groups of each district. So like, for example, in Vesturbær, there's a Facebook group with almost 13,000, somewhere between 10 and 13,000 people. And we asked them to submit inspire people to submit their ideas. And what also happened to help us was that people were sharing their own ideas in their own district groups. So like, hey, this is my idea of building, a new swimming pool. Can you please set a like for it? And then people it was like a snowball rolling. So essentially everyone was spreading their own ideas, and it ended up in this year we broke all records of participation during the submission of ideas. And the second part was
whether you commented on any, or whether did you try to moderate or steer the debate somewhere?
Not at all. I let them do it during the submission of ideas, but then I engage in the discussion afterwards. Essentially, if I need to amend an idea because this location doesn't fit, or if I need to make it a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, or if I need to change it in some way to make it legible, then I do that. But this for or against, because some ideas are, of course, maybe a heated discussion, I stay away from that, because I essentially don't have I don't have my opinion. I let democracy be the opinion, and I'm just a mediator.
Okay, thanks. That's really interesting. Really important. Robert.
Yeah, no, that was a great overview, Eiríkur. I just want to add that because we've been doing this since 2011, 2012, and we have all those registered users, that are taking part in the project. We have an email mailing list of 25,000 people. That's always really important to use email still today, and the campaign was very successful in terms of, the advertising campaign looked great, and was upbeat and positive, and so about 30% of people visited through the main websites into the neighborhood groups and so on, but 70% of the visits came through individual people sharing their ideas. It's like Eiríkur was saying, people sharing in the neighborhoods groups and so on. So you need the marketing to seed the viral activity, but it is really a virtuous cycle where people are asking for support for their own ideas. So really quickly, Simon, because we are well into our break now, if you have had another question.
No, sorry, I just need to.
Oh, just the raised hand. Okay, great. So thank you so much, Eiríkur. Obviously, you're happy to stick around. We'll be going until 1 o'clock, but now we're going to take a break until 11:50. Central European time. So, and then we'll be joined by Jón Ólafsson from the University of Iceland, who will talk about the crowdsourcing of the Icelandic constitution. We work with the Icelandic government. So I will see you all in a bit. Thanks again, Eiríkur. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
very much. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.